I'll just give a short introduction of everyone who's on the panel, and then we will be open for you to ask questions, and you can just address the person that you want to speak to. So I just have to start this off by saying that both these women have devoted their professional lives to encouraging and developing positive representation of lesbians, bisexual and trans women within the film and TV industry. You can tell I'm their friend, can't you? Between them, they have a huge amount of experience working within that industry. So Jacquie Lawrence has worked as a commissioning editor and a producer for Wonderworld, Sky TV and Channel 4, where she was responsible for gay programming. Whilst there, she was known as the filth peddler. Some of the programmes she commissioned were We Love Filth, Lesbians Go Mad on Lesbos, Lesbians Behaving Badly, Queer Street and Dyke TV. Felicity Milton, known as Fizz, has worked for ITV and Channel 4 as a freelance producer and was head of strategic drama projects for the BBC. She is currently managing director of Diva Media Group and produced Different for Girls. Jacquie and Fizz together started Jackdaw Media, an independent production company. Its aim? To produce relevant, irreverent, female-focused content and to put women's stories centre page, centre stage and centre screen. Working with Lucy Warrington, Jacquie directed and Fizz produced The Gateway's Grind, which was launched at the BFI Flair Festival in 2022. I'm Trudy Howson, and I also worked in the entertainment industry for a number of years, acting in TV, film, theatre and agitprop. I always wrote and performed poetry, and from the early 70s was committed to political activism. After being commissioned to write the poem for the 2012 London Olympics, I was able to use that professional momentum to develop the LGBT plus poetry scene in London. In 2016, I was appointed LGBT Poet Laureate, which has enabled me to use poetry as a catalyst for positive social and political change. Thank you. So I'm just going to ask a couple of short questions. Get comfy now. And then I'll put it over to you. So, Jacquie, we all want to know, why did you make the film? What was your motivation?
Well, as you said, I worked at Channel 4 for many years, commissioning lesbian programming and gay programming, and honestly thought that a documentary had been made about the gateways. So just assumed it, because why wouldn't anyone make a film about the gateways? And then in February 2020, a woman called Lucy Warrington got in touch with Diva, and Lucy Warrington is the co-producer, development producer rather, and she got in touch with Diva because she was looking for funds to finish a short film that she started about the gateways. And Diva said, look, you've got to talk to Jacquie and Fizz because this is exactly what they're doing. And I was always interested in lesbian history. I've always said that, for every 10 Oscar Wildes or films, documentaries, dramas about Oscar Wilde, you get one Gentleman Jack. So we're really, outweighed, actually. So Lucy came to talk to us and we said, it's got to be more than a short film. It's got to be a documentary. It's got to be a feature-length documentary. That was February 2020. So what happened? The next month, we went into lockdown. Now, what Lucy had done before that, she'd filmed some what we call the development interviews, and she filmed with Trudy, and she filmed with Jamie, and also with Barbara Hoskins. Trudy is still with us. Barbara and Jamie are no longer with us. So Lucy actually got interviews from those wonderful women as they were dying, and they knew they were dying. So we said, look, we've got to keep those interviews. We've got to include those interviews and all the other research interviews into the film. And as soon as lockdown lifted, we went back out there and we interviewed further women, including Trudy again. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but Trudy's used quite a lot throughout the film. But actually, those, of course, because she has some incredible stories to tell. But we actually filmed that interview 3 years apart. So we got her and we made her wear the same clothes, have her the same hairstyle, same setup in her flat. But what she didn't tell us was that she got a lockdown dog called Gary. And Gary wouldn't leave Trudy alone. So if you look at this again, you'll see some where she's interviewed and there's no Gary. And there are some interview sequences where she's got a random dog's leg. Anyway, so, continuity. But the thing about the development was that not only did we have these wonderful women who, Jamie, she just had chemo. And then that day, and she said, I have to give this interview. I have to tell you what it was like, because this is an untold history. This is a history that could have been erased. These women were dying. So we got the word out and we got more and more interviews. But what we didn't have was a lot of archive, because it was an underground club. It was, as we've seen, it was purposely hidden and secret. There were secret codes to get in. There were secret membership cards. There was, it was all shrouded in that. Yes, there was a green badge. Exactly, there was a button. Well, if we'd known that. And we pitched this programme to many broadcasters, including one who shall remain nameless, who said, basically, unless you've got the archive unless you've got secret 16mm films that you've found behind somebody's wardrobe of Princess Margaret going down and slogging Gina, we won't give you this commission. So we didn't have, obviously we didn't have, God, if we'd had that archive. We didn't have any archive, we just had personal archive. And obviously the scenes from the killing of Sister George. So what we had to do was recreate it, and that's where I came up with the idea of having this kind of these vignettes running through. And people have said, who are those stories, who are they based on? And they're not. They're based on all of the women that we interviewed, and women that we interviewed who weren't on camera, didn't want to go on camera. And I created a narrative, and they meshed lots of women's stories together to create those dramatic reconstructions. Yes, we did that through Diva. I think Facebook, probably Facebook. Yeah. It was word of mouth. And I have to say, more and more people have come forward and said yes. So, there is, there's another story to tell, I think. I really do believe there's another story to tell. And whether that's going to be some kind of drama, I don't know. Whether we're talking to Queer Britain about a travelling exhibition where we would have people's artefacts, testimony, photographs. So basically, why did we do it? We did it because it needed to be told. It really, really did need to be told. Going back to the broadcasters, so we took it to 4 broadcasters and they all said no. And then, so we cobbled the money ourselves. We literally, sold, not children, but, sold things. we crowdfunded, we used, what we did, we just literally got it. We got lots and lots of help from, we got friends who own a facility company. They give us all the colour grading, all of the online. We got, people did it for nothing. They were incredible. We managed to do it. And then we sent the film to the broadcasters who'd said no to us, and all of them said yes. And we got into a bidding war I mean, it was quite extraordinary. I mean, as I've said before, it's not enough to buy a house in Hollywood Hills. You know, it was enough to clear the archive and the music, because as you see, we used music all the way through because music was so important to the club, not least Dusty. And clearing a Dusty track was absolutely, you know. So we actually got, we used one authentic Dusty track, and then we got people like Horse to record it. So the word community is mentioned a lot in this film, and it was a real community project, and you know, people just love being part of it.
Well, actually, I think at this point, Fiz, I know that you're often very reticent here, but I just want to know how you two got together professionally as the company. And you've already said what happened to the film, but what was your instinct about it? What did you feel about it when it all started? Did you realise just how big it was going to be? When it was launched at BFI, it sold out in 17 minutes.
Yeah, we actually thought it was a mistake, didn't we? We thought it was like, oh, it's a glitch on my computer. So that was lovely. That was lovely. Best of the Fest. Yeah, it was. Well, I can remember the moment when we finally met Lucy, because we were trying to meet, and she was talking about it, and we were both immediately on our phones. I think was it you? Yeah, Trudy, you say in the film, you know, it's so easy to forget that there was not social media. You know, you couldn't just immediately look someone up if you wanted to date them or go out, you know, any of that kind of stuff. So immediately we were online, and I think if you've seen The Killing of Sister George, you think, well, there is film. There is a film about the gateways. And so once we got through that,
and also there was the chat at Queer Britain.
Yeah,
hundreds and hundreds of people attended that Zoom meeting from all over the world, just really thrilled to talk about their experience at the gateways. It
feels so dramatic. I think immediately it's so evocative just from the early conversations. Particularly with the drama that we've made together. And as Jackie said, you know that this story has to be told. And now we'll meet people who haven't heard about it at all and are very interested in it, with people who've actually been there. So yeah, it was a kind of, we have to make this happen.
Okay, so, well,
can I just a little bit, because I know Fiz would want to talk about it, being the producer. I was like, where are we going to, you know, film all of these dramatic reconstructions? Where, you know, are we going to clear out someone's basement? Are we going to? Lucy got a call from a shop on the King's Road, a flower shop, a very upmarket flower shop, and they saw, a gentleman had walked in, one of the Chelsea gentlemen, and said, oh, this used to be a lesbian bar. And they said, so they started to research what it used to be, and they found out that we were making this documentary, and they called us up. And
yeah,
you can finish.
They said, how can we help, basically? And they said, well, we said, you can let us in. So we actually, and Lucy had been trying to get in there for a while, and had literally met a brick wall, and so we were able to go in there and go into the basement. So we actually, all the footage that you saw, all the dramatic
real place
reconstructions, was the real place, which we do say, but it's kind of quite easy to miss that.
And
so it was quite emotional.
We were, you came from Bristol, I came from Newcastle, and literally just, you know, my first weekend as a lesbian going to London, and I missed the gateways by 2 weeks. So we'd never been in. So walking down what was a white door, and that's when I came up with the motif of Sandi painting it, and going down those stairs for the first time, the walls, it was like the ghosts were coming out the walls. Yeah. You could just feel it. It was unbelievable.
It was, and it was literally a white box, because it's the basement where they prepare all their flowers. But you did feel it. And it's definitely something about those stairs.
Definitely. So now, if anyone wants to address any question to anyone on the panel, could they just please raise their hand, and we'll send a mic back. Any questions?
I really liked how it was very... it held space for lots of different women with different opinions about it, and sort of it felt like a place that meant different things to different people, and some of those were critical and some of those were amazing. And I was wondering if in the process of making it, anyone said anything that you found personally quite challenging, and whether you included that or not.
I think, well, yes. I mean, there were people who said it was really, really a lot scarier than they care to remember. And even Linda, who talks about it, she said, you know, actually, I think when she got down there, she was probably a little bit milder about it. But she said it could be incredibly scary, incredibly scary. And, you know... Gosh, I mean, as you say, you know, social media now. I could, yes, I can imagine. I can't, you know, which is what we wanted to recreate in the drama, because I think people didn't want to be so critical or detract so much but you know, it was problematic. You know, the butch femme was problematic.
I have to say this, that I'm a natural crossover, so I've always been both. And I used to say when I was down there that I was butch femme, because I looked very femme, with butch rising. But even though it might have been initially scary, because, you know, lots of women went down there on their own, it was a safe place. It was the only place we could go. So even if you felt frightened, you knew that we were all on the same team. So, you know, first time down, I found it frightening but thrilling. Second time down, I just found it the latter. And that's how it went on. Is there another question, please?
I'm really fascinated by what was happening politically at the same time over the years the club developed, because there were all these battles. You got the bill, anti-homosexual bill, was overturned in 1967, and we had all those changes. And then there was the 3-day week and all of that, and there was all this kind of tumultuous change, social change going on, and yet this little thread went through all of it. It was always somewhere, and it was evolving. Women became much more androgynous looking in the 80s. All of the post-punk stuff, when the fashion changed, a lot of the lesbians adopted a more punky, new wave sort of look. So the look changed. And I had a club called the Ace of Clubs in Piccadilly, and I had a lot of
Love that club.
Thank you, darling. And I had a lot of that crowd who came when the gates shut down. They would come to my club.
Saturday night.
And I was under a lot of pressure to allow men in by the owner, because they drank more and we made more money on the bar.
Surprising.
But something about my youth, because I tried to get in the gateways when I was underage, and I did manage it with a wig and heavy makeup, but I was there as a teeny bopper, and something about that aura of protecting women and having a safe space for women, it never left me. And the two Sues who were doing heads up round the corner, they let men in as well, and they were doing very well. And I was under a lot of pressure, but I thought, no, there was something about the Gateways vibe that for my own psyche, I wanted to recreate that. And I thought that you'd captured that very well in the interviews you'd had with everybody. You captured that really well. And I thought the killer line is when the woman said that they could take your children away. Because people didn't, that is the killer line in that film. Because I don't think people realise, young gay women now don't realise. So thank you for putting that in, because that really says it how it was.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who'd like to say anything? Oh, come on, don't be shy. This is your chance.
Hi, I was just really interested about how hard it was for you to get any funding. I mean, I find that astonishing. And I just want to ask, I mean, this is probably not the question I should be asking in a way.
Oh,
but
go on, darling.
Did you, did you apply to any things like any public purses like Heritage Lottery, or I mean, do they? I think they do support things.
More
and
now.
Yeah, Heritage. I mean, this should be something that they should have gone for immediately.
Yes, we did.
Shame on them.
And we didn't get anywhere. I think part of it, as Jacquie was saying, we weren't going to hang around. You know, we'd lost 2 women already, and we did not want these stories not to be told. So there was a case of getting on with it, which meant doing it ourselves on a shoestring and going back to the floor and beg, borrowing and stealing. But yes, I think I was at the BBC for a very, very long time, and over again, as Jackie was saying, you would have that thing where it's kind of, well, tick, we've had a lesbian programme, so that's done now. And I don't know what it is, and I think it's a thing that women suffer from, actually. And also, with this, we came up against the kind of, do we really want something about people sitting around talking about going to a club, conveying, and I think that, this is down to Jackie, the magical atmosphere and the importance of it. Yeah. And I think, the humour surprised me, the things that, when you talk about what things that you find, that mix, when you have Diana talking about our tribe and finding your tribe, and you see it in her eyes, and, just getting the humour, but it doesn't mean it wasn't deeply important and meaningful, and I think that it's very hard to get across to people.
Okay, so there were quite a few hands coming up the back. Could we just don't be shy, put your hands up. We've only gone to the first 2 rows.
I know, I'll throw it back there.
We need to go back.
Do you want me to throw?
No, okay. Take it. You've got it in your hand.
Stop yelling at me.
No, go for. No, I'm just yelling to the back.
Where's Gina? She's going to kick me out. The blue plaque. Do you know when that'll be updated? Do you plan on opening the editing back up to update it in some way? What are your? That's such a cliffhanger.
It is a cliffhanger, and there was the sale, the acquisition was to the BBC, and the BBC are not allowed any campaigning. So we had to take a lot of it out. So you've seen more of it there, in an ideal world, that would have been the narrative. Sandi. The thing about Sandi is she signed on immediately. I found out that she went there. I asked if she would author it as opposed to present it, and she said yes. So that was wonderful. But Sandi's really busy. Incredibly busy, so we only had her for one day, so we had to take the whole Sandi knocking on the door of English heritage, and with a march and with a lesbian march behind her, and and the dream would have been that we would have got the call and we would have had a public, but that wasn't to be, so that's the ending we had to and I kind of quite like it because
it's the unfinished story,
the unfinished
isn't it?
Story, but it's also lesbians taking control and saying, okay, if the authorities are not going to award it a blue plaque, we shall. There's a woman called with the wonderful name of Hero Johnson, and a lot of the women, including Barbara, she was part of the campaign, part of the committee, and no longer with us, unfortunately. So anyway, Hero Johnson is kind of the head of the stampede. So we've got no update yet, other than the pandemic. There's a backlog. Yeah.
So the microphone has now drifted up the back. So yes,
here.
Hello. Your question, please.
It's a bit of a continuation from the funding question. I was just wondering, obviously there's such a desire for these stories from the communities and the people, but with commissioners and funders, do you think that kind of, they didn't get on board at first, but then when you'd made it, they were interested? Do you think from that there's been a bit of do you think there's change now? Do you think there's more of a kind of want for it, or is it kind of going to happen again?
Can I just quickly say, no, I think it's going back. No, absolutely not. When I was at Channel 4, I had a budget specifically for queer programming. And I had slots in the schedule specifically for queer programming. And the budget was sizable, and which meant that we could take over a Saturday night and dedicate it to a coming out evening, which would wrap around the Ellen Coming Out episode, or you'd have zones like Dyke TV or Queer Street, which would be hours and hours long, and we would be able to commission feature films, short films, documentaries, documentary series. It was part of Channel 4's remit. It was at the hub of the remit. And then because of budgetary cuts and because a sense that we had won programming was assimilated into main programming. So you'd get a lesbian in Brookside, or you'd get, I don't know, a lesbian in, and on the soaps and then dramas. And, all right, you know, it's brilliant to see lesbian representation assimilated into the main schedule, but a lot of that representation is diluted. There's
baddies.
Yeah, and there's no specific, there's very little specific lesbian content on any of the broadcasters. Streamers are better. I know Kristen, who's here, has done a lot of research into, you know, the GLAD report. Gay men fare really well. As I said, I did my own research, and it was something like there were more gay male dramas on the BBC in 1 year than there were in over 5 broadcasters in 10 years. For lesbians. So no, it's gone backwards. It's absolutely gone backwards. And if we're not selling our kidneys or our cars or our children, haven't done that yet, in order to raise money to make films, documentaries, dramas, because we've made a web series as well about our community, our stories, our lives, no one else will make it. And, you know, it's too early to announce now, but, you know, we are starting on another independently financed and funded feature-length documentary, because I know it's pointless us going to the broadcasters until we've made them, because actually they can buy them at a fraction of the cost. At least it's out there. They get out there and we can clear the music, but it's pointless waiting for the no. I'm not going to wait for the no anymore. I'm just going to go and make it.
Okay, we've just got time for one last question. Anyone up the back there? Can I see you waving your hands in the air? So just to say, I hope that the people here who feel really inspired to move ahead with their own productions, to submit their scripts and ideas, because, you know, that's what we need to do. We need to get our voice out there. Yes, last question. Oh, it's gone very quiet. You're not snogging up the back, are you?
Can I just say, first of all, thanks so much for this. Like yourself, I missed out on going to Gateways by about a month. So, yeah, it's always been something that I feel like I've missed out. Yeah, bang on that door. I'm going to go along now. It's green again and just bang on it anyway, I think. But, what it is, what can we do as all this grows? Because I think there's an issue with intergenerational now within our queer community, especially with lesbians as well. So what can we do to help get funding? What can we actually physically do?
Respond to anything that's on the TV or films, or, you know, protest against the negative representation of lesbians. They're usually presented as really fucked up people, or they get killed. I don't know if any of you've seen Tor recently. You know, I mean, really, we need positive representations, and we do pay a TV license.
And all, but for independently funded, yes, you crowdfund or have, I don't know, we thought about maybe recreating Gateways for a night, you know, Gateways the theme park, you know, things like that. Those kind of you know, initiatives really. And just one last thing I wanted to say about positive representation. What we really did absolutely make sure was that every actor was played by a queer woman. That was absolutely, you know, non-negotiable, and I would say probably 98% of the crew was queer as well. So I think that's, you know, it's not just in front of the camera, it's behind as well. And if we can create a community where we are, you know, in swap, if people are working in the industry, then let us know. Because, you know, it's always about wanting to the more people, as Trudy says, the more people who tell our stories, the more we can get them made. But if we can share skills and finance,
yeah. And also use our clubs. Don't just stay at home and gaze into your laptop doing social media. Get out there and get flirting. If we don't use those clubs, no, I'm not kidding, we will lose them.
Which clubs? That's the problem. That's the real problem.
There are, I mean, I know at least 6. I can tell you later.
Give me a list.
What's that, a chat up line?
No, there are nights in clubs. That's the problem. There are nights in clubs. That's one of the things, though. Every
She-bar,
single person.
retro bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, you know, and there've always been club nights. Even you know, the Ace of Clubs was always just one night. But you know, I think we've got so used to like dating apps and stuff, we've forgotten that real life face-to-face thing. I think we need to get out there and get flirting and use our clubs. So we're going to go, and actually let's use this cinema. You know, here we have a fabulous place, and they can't be being more welcoming for us to come here with our dates, with our friends. So join it. Be part of a new kind of going to the cinema. It's social screening. Much better than watching it at home. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you to Jacquie and Fizz. Thank you. Thanks.